The oceans of our world are spectacular. From the surface, the deep, and the deeper. Everything, from small planktonic micropredators to the living, breathing kaijus that swallow them whole, is unique in its own right. The oceans are often said to harbour the most alien life on our planet. ZIRA, an alien world, has oceans too. And much like our planet, ZIRA's oceans will foster the growth of extraordinary organisms. Hi, I'm Zachbot, and I'll be your host for the evening. Although, I've been thinking, this model is kind of outdated, and I think we're due for a change. So, let's do just that. Let's change. This looks way better. To the video, shall we? In the last episode, we discussed ZIRA's equivalent to the Cambrian explosion, an explosion in the diversity of life. All creatures, big and small, scrambled to fill as many niches as they could. This led to ZIRA's primordial shallow seas being full of biodiversity. However, this boom in biodiversity cannot be said for everywhere. Most of ZIRA's oceans are left mainly uninhabited by large organisms. But life adapts and conquers, and in this episode we'll be talking about how life adapts to all levels of the water column. Starting at the surface, where light allows large clouds of plankton to fuel marine ecosystems. And as the video progresses, we'll slowly make our way down to the deep, dark depths. The ocean's surface. At first, it may look barren, apart from the occasional pocket of tristichophyte, but it's far from it. The ocean surface is constantly bombarded by light from Pyre, ZIRA's sun. It's this light which fuels the ocean's biodiversity. The light provides sustenance for planktonic organisms. These organisms are then in turn eaten by larger and larger plankton. The larger non-microscopic plankton is then eaten by pelagic filter feeders like the Imperalakami. And lastly, at the top of the early open ocean food web is the Imperalakami's natural predator, the Acmerostoma. This means the only large creatures in ZIRA's open ocean so far are the Imperalakami and Acmerostoma. Perhaps a cladobenthic organism may evolve to capitalize on this. They would be leaving their seabed home in search of life higher up in the water column. Let's say the clade that does this is the Concamis. Instead of eating marine snow, which is dead plankton, they could evolve to eat it straight from the source. To stay afloat, they may evolve a similar method to the extinct ammonites of Earth. Their shell may curve into a spiral-shaped siphuncle. Sifuncles work by increasing and decreasing pressure in specialized chambers, allowing the creature to swim up and down. For this, we will give it the name Alexipiso, meaning spiral back. To avoid damaging the eyes whilst feeding, the two bottom tendrils may move their eyes closer to the body. It's these two tendrils which will be the ones primarily used during feeding, with the middle tendril being used for perception. Much like ammonites of Earth, Alexipiso will come in a varying range of shape, size and colour. Some being larger and bulkier, some being smaller and more rounded, others being more swift and angular, and still plenty more evolving into all kinds of shapes and sizes. Much like the Concamis, the Imperalakami and the Acmerostoma will be evolving too. The large plankton clouds would cause the Imperalakami to fall into a feedback loop. The more food they eat, the larger they'll be able to grow, and the larger they're able to grow, the more food they'll be able to eat, and so on and so forth. This will cause the Imperalakami to slowly increase in size, up to the point their body won't be able to do so any longer. As the Imperalakami slowly begin to get larger, they'll have to make some new adaptations to support their new lifestyle. For starters, the arrangement of their 6 small mouth tendrils won't be enough to support their large sizes anymore. Instead, these massive creatures could evolve to have 4 on the top and 2 underneath. They'll also grow larger and flatter to have a larger surface area to catch plankton. These large creatures would swim in pods looking for large plumes. Once found, they'll take turns swimming into the plumes and closing their mouths, trapping the plankton inside. The mouths close in a shape reminiscent of a flower bud. Excess water is spewed out while the plankton is trapped inside. This is where it gets its name, Luludostoma, meaning flower mouth. Their size comes with another advantage as well. They're simply too large to be attacked by the Acmerostoma. However, this predatorless bliss won't last for long. As the Imperial slowly increased in size, so too will the Acmerostoma. Much like what happened with the Luludostoma, the Acmerostoma will make some changes to its body to suit its new lifestyle. For starters, they may evolve a new sensory organ. A lateral line system is a specialized organ that detects water pressure and movement in the surrounding water. Typically, they're used by fish and sharks of Earth, but the Acmerostoma may evolve something similar as well. This, paired with their new large size, would allow them to become the new apex predators of ZIRA's open oceans. Their newfound size allowing them to take down even the largest of Luludostoma. Taking on a whole pod alone would be a very hard task. So instead, these creatures would opt for the strategy of waiting for a Luludostoma to stray too far from its pod before viciously attacking. Another large part of this creature's diet would be the Elyxipiso. To aid in the takedown of these hard-shelled creatures, they have evolved larger and more robust jaws. These jaws would allow them to puncture and crush the shells of the Elyxipiso, giving them access to the juicy innards within. These large puncturing jaws are what give this clade its name, Gigadont, meaning giant tooth. This new formidable predator may cause the Imperial to have to evolve new defense mechanisms. Perhaps one clade will evolve to take the phrase safety in numbers to the fullest extent. These creatures will evolve to become schooling fish. For this, they will be given the name Spineliso, meaning swarm fish. These creatures would be smaller than their ancestors, but would make up for it in their sheer numbers. Their schools would reach the thousands, creating large underwater spectacles for any would-be viewers. Similar to the Gigadont, the Spineliso may also evolve a lateral line system. They would use it to not only detect predators, but also find the right position in the swarms. The swarms, while an effective defensive measure, aren't without flaw. If there are a large amount of predators surrounding the swarm, they may pose a large danger to the Spineliso inside. If this is the case, then the Spineliso will have to enact their secret weapon. Once danger is too high, the whole swarm will slowly move deeper and deeper and deeper. Eventually, the predators will be forced to leave due to not being adapted to this kind of climate. One adaptation the Spineliso has made to survive in the deep is bioluminescence. Small patches around their eyes can be turned on and off, glowing in the dark. These patches allow the Spineliso to see each other and regroup after a predator attack. Whilst this bioluminescence is effective, it can also easily be exploited by predators. Perhaps a clade of Ventotherios may do this, slowly venturing down into the deep and adapting to this new strange world. Their two long arms could be tipped with bioluminescent patches, specifically designed to lure in Spineliso. The deep sea has a severe lack in nutrients, most of it coming from above. Bioluminescence also happens to be very energetically demanding. One way around this problem is to not produce it yourself. These sacs are designed to cultivate the growth of bacteria that produces light. This light would be controlled, flashing on and off at will to lure in the Imperial army. This behavior is similar to anglerfish of Earth, and it's where it gets its name from, Zaplomeneki, meaning lying claw. The Zaplomeneki is a nefarious hunter. They would use their flashing lights to lure in a Spineliso, only to stab it with a long, sharp claw, one on each arm. And before it can react, a large mouth emerges from the deep, lined with teeth, before it rips it to shreds. As stated previously, the deep sea is very nutrient poor, so this means survival of the offspring is far from guaranteed. So, To ensure the survival of their offspring, Zaplomeneki have a unique reproductive strategy. If a male and female ever become united, they'll interlock their tail and their two back fins. Then, the male spews its gametes into the female. Until the egg has matured, the male and female will stay by each other's side, protecting each other at all costs. Once matured, the female will do something very strange. They will use their long arm claws to pierce a hole into the male. Then, the eggs are deposited inside of the male. This is where they go separate ways, but the job isn't done yet. Once alone, the male will slowly begin swimming down to the deep, deep seabed. Once arrived, it will rest and proceed to defend itself until it inevitably dies due to lack of food. This may seem counterintuitive, but it's actually genius. Once hatched, the offspring will have a large feast to subsist upon until they're old enough to go out on their own. The offspring will eat the corpse of the male. This ensures they have enough food to survive to adulthood. Like I said before, most nutrients in the deep sea comes from above. If an organism dies and it isn't scavenged in time, it will slowly sink to the bottom of the ocean. These rare events are known as whale falls and bring large amounts of nutrients down to the deep sea. Typically, whale falls are scavenged by deep sea varieties of Trichinoa, Spegulus and Phodiostoma, as well as Aporinatu and their larvae. However, some species may specialize to feed on whale falls. Perhaps an early offshoot of the Parvicellurus may specialize to go down this path. They could start by feeding on the Aporinatu growing on top, but slowly make their way to feeding on the carcass underneath. Going from a herbivore to a scavenger is a drastic change, so their body will have to make some drastic changes as well. For starters, their stilt-like legs would grow longer and longer and longer. This would drastically increase their stride length. This would allow them to walk long distances with minimal effort, perfect for prowling the deep in search of whale falls. Their ancestral plant-based diet would limit them to only the softest parts of the carcass. They would use two hook-like teeth, one on each jaw, to tear away the softest parts of the flesh. These creatures would travel in pods of varying sizes, using chemoreceptive cells around the base of their teeth to detect chemical signatures given off by whale falls. The trek from meal to meal can be very dangerous, and detecting predators in the dark is a risky game, so these organisms have evolved a unique sensory adaptation to help with this problem. Lining their backs are mechanoreceptive hair-like structures used for detecting vibrations in the water. This allows them to know where their predators are, even without seeing them. These unique organisms will be given the name Tomoporos, meaning corpse walker. Another deep-sea scavenger could be of much more reasonable descent, the carnivorous Acmerostoma, evolving into the scavenging Thanatocleptus, meaning death thief. These ghostly descendants have lost almost all use in their eyes. Instead of using their eyes to see, their top mandible has evolved into a sensory pedipalp. Mechanoreceptive hairs cover a bulb at the end of the pedipalp, and at the base of the bulb, chemoreceptive cells sense chemical signatures in the water. Another unique characteristic they have is a dorsal spike. This prevents attacks from above, which is a useful adaptation in the deep sea. Once these creatures find a whale fall, they'll use their large claws to fend off other creatures to steal it for themselves. They'll eat all the good bits, leaving only the leftovers for other scavengers. Most of the time, these altercations don't actually end up in a fight, as it's simply not worth it in the deep sea. One thing the Thanatocleptus can't digest are the bones. Instead, they leave that to another creature, the Anovemiti, meaning jet nose. These deep-sea descendants of the Rhamphophragma have adapted to crush bone instead of cocoon due to lack of plants in the deep. To aid in this, they've evolved a large crest on their beak, which can be used to pry open carcasses while feeding and to smash bone to cause cracks and dents. Another adaptation they've evolved is much larger eyes. This allows them to take in more light, which gives them much better vision than other deep-sea dwellers. Their name translation, jet nose, comes from a unique defensive adaptation they've evolved. On each side of their respiratory system, they've evolved a new opening. This allows them to flush out water when breathing. This causes them to be launched forwards, which is really useful when evading predators. The crushing bite of the Anovometi isn't just used on bone, but also shell. These creatures are the top predator of the Portosopsi, a deep-sea relative of the Chlamysoma. Hydrothermal vents. Hydrothermal vents are when cracks in the ground cause magma and other chemicals to spew out from the Earth, or ZIRA's, mantle. They typically occur on plate boundaries, which means a large majority of them will occur in the deep sea. The chemicals spewed out by these vents can be synthesized by chemosynthetic bacteria called chemoplankton. It's this plankton which the Portosopsi filter feed on. Hydrothermal vents are some of the only sources of nutrients in the deep that doesn't come from above, but they're also highly unstable environments. Oftentimes, temperatures fluctuate from near freezing to boiling in seconds. To combat this, the Portosopsi have evolved hinge-like flaps in their armor, giving them the ability to close it if temperatures become too extreme. This is its namesake, Portosopsi, meaning door face. The unstable environment and lack of nutrients in the deep sea will cause the ancestral larvae of the Chlamysoma to be born prematurely. They would be born without shells, eyes, or even other complex organs. This might seem bad, but it's actually more of an advantage than a disadvantage. Not only does it allow them to be spawned in larger numbers, but it also gives them the added benefit of being light enough to be carried by the current. This allows the larva to drift around in the sea until a change in temperature or chemical signature awakens them from their slumber, where they'll then begin to dig down into the sand and turn into an adult. The open ocean, a place where danger lurks around every corner, and the deep sea, a place where the lack of food means survival to tomorrow, is far from guaranteed. Both places of relatively low biodiversity compared to the shallows. But in the next episode, we'll be going somewhere where the biodiversity is so high, it will make the shallows look like the deep.